Hello everybody and welcome back to Ingress Point, and today we're going to be talking about speed. Specifically, speed within a Galactic Empire list that I'm quite looking forward to running. So it's going to be a bit different to previous episodes in that I'm not going to build a squad from scratch. I'm going to show you a squad that I am quite excited to play and kind of explain my reasoning as to why I'm excited to play it. So this is going to be the squad. You know, it might change a little bit during the video, but at least this is the start of the squad, and I'm excited about it because I think they're very, very fast, and I think there's some fun movement shenanigans you can do. So I'm going to go through each unit, primary, secondary and support, and then I'm going to show some stuff in game, kind of show you what I'm thinking about, and then maybe discuss some alternatives. So here we go. Alright, let's look at the primaries. So Moff is a big part of this, and is really kind of the first thing I put in the list and what led to everything else. So he's a Galactic Empire character, and he has two movement based abilities, one being Smug Determination as tactic, so no force cost with this. Choose a Galactic Empire character within 4. That character and Moff can dash. You know, we've seen it quite a lot in Shatterpoint, it's very good. We've seen it sometimes without a range limitation, but a range limitation of 4 is, you know, it's quite far. It's decent. You'll be able to make good use of this. His next one is an active ability, and it's something we've not seen before. It's called Long Live the Empire, Cost of Force. So you have to choose an objective and a Galactic Empire support unit, and that one character in that support unit can reposition towards that chosen objective, and then suffers 2 damage. That's the bit I'm interested in. There's also the bit of if you take a wound, you get to immediately kind of contest the objective by flipping your wounded token, which is good, but I'm more interested in the movement part of this. Darth Vader has got a few abilities that are kind of relevant towards this movement-based strategy you're going for with this squad. The first is his tactic. You don't know the power of the dark side, so Darth Vader can remove some damage or a condition from himself. I think that's relevant to this movement-based method because you can basically never pin him. As soon as he goes, he can just take that pin off. Or if, say, for example, if he has a strain and 3 health left, he can take that strain off. So, good stuff. He also gets a dash with his anger, hate, aggression, and also he's got an innate ability, kind of like a second identity, really, which is whenever he wounds someone, another allied Galactic Empire character can dash. So if he's murdering folks, you're getting a lot of dashes off. Obviously there's a lot of shenanigans you do with this Vader where maybe you don't necessarily want to be wounding things, but it's nice to have the choice, and I think this is going to play into our strategy. So on to the secondaries, that's what they're called. So we first have the Death Trooper Escort. He's very reminiscent of Captain Rex. So at the start of his activation for his tactic, you can choose himself or a support, and they can dash. And if the chosen unit is damaged at all, it can reposition. I mean, a reposition is a really long way to go, and you can just move fully out of combat. So that's very strong. Again, there's no range on this, so that's quite a good, strong ability, and you're going to be moving a lot of stuff around. It is, you know, either or, himself or a support. But he has tactical advance, which lets him dash for the cost of a force, which is fairly standard stuff, really, with what we've seen for a lot of, say, clones in Republic, and something a lot of characters have. Then we have Disciplined, which is a nice, it's not quite unique, I think, really, but it's definitely not very common throughout the game. Cost of Force reactive. After someone attacks the Death Trooper Escort, if it's not wounded, and you probably wouldn't use it if he was wounded anyway, the Death Trooper Escort can reposition towards an active objective, and then if he's not engaged against a hunker, but don't really care that much about that. So what's exciting about this is, say for example, someone shoves the Death Trooper Escort off a point, and he lives, which is quite likely because he has 9 health of protection. He just gets to put himself back on the point and stops it from being taken, or he could potentially even just run off and take a completely different point. So this is, again, like a full reposition rather than something like a dash. It's just a lot of moving guys around. The other secondary is the Stormtrooper Sergeant. He's not quite as strong as the Death Trooper Escort, but he is only a 3 cost. But basically he gets to choose an allied Galactic Empire support, and that character can advance. Or sorry, each character in the unit can advance. So if you pick 2 Stormtroopers, Both of them can move. And then they suffer a damage if they do choose to do that. So he doesn't really get to move himself around, which is a bit awkward. I think it probably means you don't necessarily want to go with him first. And it does make him probably the weak point in the list, but I'm hoping that you can kind of get away with it, really. And he also brings stuff like coordinated offensive for the stormtroopers, so he brings other benefits. So there's obviously a bit of a negative to this with taking a damage, similar to Moff Gideon's contest an active objective reposition ability. But luckily stormtroopers and other supports within Galactic Republic have a decent amount of health, so hopefully it's not too big a deal, but you do need to be careful when considering when to use this. Alright, that's the secondaries. On to supports. The supports, I've stuck in a third one here that we didn't see because I think he warrants discussion. But let's take them in turn. None of them have abilities really that move other people, but they all have an ability that lets them move themselves. So for example, Dark Troopers, they can jump, which is probably the most powerful of what we're looking at here, same as Fifth Brother. Stormtroopers can dash, and they may suffer damage to take a focus, but we're interested in the dash. There's lots of moving around you can do here. So Fifth Brother has, he's got a lot going on. He's got decent health, steadfast and protection when he's contesting an active objective, force repulse if you really need it in a pinch. And the other two things, so the other stormtroopers have two bodies, which, I think probably in general 2 bodies is better than 1. So Fifth Brother, even though he has inquisitorial mandate and beats ties, 2 bodies are probably better in general. And the Dark Troopers I think the Dark Troopers are very good. They have the jump, but kind of in this mobility plan, they're immune to pin, so they can't be slowed down. And they also can't be pushed or pulled by abilities. And considering how strong Django is with his capture wire, that seems very strong. What I'm going to do now is jump into Tabletop Simulator and kind of show you just an example couple of turns as to what you can do with the squad and why I'm excited for it. Alright, let's go. Okay, here we are in Tabletop Simulator, and we've just got a setup so that we can kind of look at a hypothetical first couple of turns for our squad. We've got Moff Gideon and the Dark Troopers with Death Trooper Escort over here, and on this side we have Darth Vader, Emperor's Servant, Fifth Brother, and the Stormtrooper Sergeant. So, we're going to look at say hypothetically on our first turn, we draw Moff Gideon. So let's bring out range 4 to see who his tactic can impact. It can reach Fifth Brother over here, or it can reach all of his squad. But what we want to do is move Fifth Brother. So we're going to let Fifth Brother dash. The tool is a bit broken, but it's still moving him the right distance. Now, we also get to dash Moff Gideon. So this looks a bit funny, but it's working. He's going the right distance. So now, Moff Gideon is going to do his move. He's going to move just up here to get within range 2 of the objective. So he's just within range 2, but it also keeps him within range 4 of the Dark Trooper. So he's now contesting this objective, albeit on a different level. He's then going to use his ability to let Fifth Brother do a move and take 2 damage for the pleasure, of course. And this puts Fifth Brother in position to contest this objective. So now, whereas on Sabotage Showdown, what you're normally trying to do is gather 3 objectives on your first turn. Here you've got 4. So it's kind of risky to do it because you're putting 2 damage on Fifth Brother, although he has got, protection. Now he's contesting this. He's got steadfast, so he's hard to get off, and he's got decent enough defensive that a lot of things won't be able to shift him. But you'll need to make the call as to whether or not it's appropriate. For example, if Darth Vader Jedi Hunter was standing here, he's just going to move up, kill Fifth Brother, gain a momentum, and take the objective back. So you're kind of you're just giving your opponent something for nothing, really. So you can do that on your first turn. You can do it on your first turn even if you're going second, potentially. So for example, if there was a secondary contesting this objective, if Fifth Brother moves up, he will now break that tie and claim the objective for you. So I just think that's quite a powerful first turn play, depending on who you're going up against. So then on the second turn, say for example, your opponent ran from their deployment zone up here to stand someone on top of this objective. Something you can do now is, say for example, if you draw your shatter point, or you went with your shatter point first and now you draw Gideon, you're still within range 4 of the Dark Troopers, as we measured already. So now Gideon gets to go up the ingress, the Dark Trooper gets to come with. Gideon then can potentially attack and kill whoever's up here, and then he has a reposition available, or he can do a move action and move and start threatening this objective, and then he can use his ability to let the Dark Trooper come up this ingress point and sit on this objective. So after 2 turns, you're spread all over the map and you're contesting an awful lot of objectives. So this is kind of an idealized situation in that you're going with Gideon twice in a row at the start of the game, so it's not obviously not going to happen every time, but it's just an example of the strong kind of play patterns you can do with this squad and why I think it's good and fun. So, alright, let's jump back to our presentation and see what else there is to talk about. Okay, so the next thing to talk about is kind of alternatives to that squad. So looking first at stuff that has the Galactic Empire tag, because that obviously works with a lot of the synergies we've talked about. There's only really a couple of other options we can put in, and the ones I'm going to talk about here is Iden and Special Forces. These have been spoiled at Adepticon. We're still waiting for the full kind of reveal articles from AMG, but so I've put the abilities kind of typed out so they're a bit easier to read, and it's enough for us to kind of think about how they might fit in our squad. So let's dive in. So Iden's identity is she can dash a Galactic Empire Scout at range 4 in herself. Importantly, the Scout cannot be engaged, and this obviously works with the Special Forces who have the Scout keyword. So I think this is considerably worse than, say, Moff Gideon's ability. One, it has an extra limitation in that it has to be a Scout, of which there isn't very many. And Galactic Empire Scout specifically, sorry, there isn't very many. And also they cannot be engaged. So towards the later stages of the game, when lots and lots of things are going to be engaged, and again it says engaged, not with a non-wounded unit, so it's going to be engaged a lot, you won't be able to get that dash off. So I think that's quite limiting, and I think it's, I don't know, it's a bit sad. I don't think the engaged condition was required with the limitations that are already there. So that's already put me a bit down on how Iden would fit in this particular squad. She then has an identity that also grants movement, along with some other things when a Galactic Empire character wounds an enemy unit. So that's good. So you can potentially impact one objective, get a dash by wounding somebody, and kind of start swinging multiple objectives in a turn. So that's decent. So then let's look at the Imperial Special Forces. They have got the very standard kind of ability of spending a force to dash, and they can get focus, but that's not what we're thinking about. They have a similar ability to Vader, where they can remove a condition at the start of their turn, so they're basically impossible to pin and stick down that way. And they also deploy at range 3 of the first place character. So they can basically be all the way up the board, kind of from deployment. So that's potentially very strong. And they can contest things. But the thing that is kind of giving me pause about putting this in rather than what we were just looking at is the limitations on Iden's ability, her tactic. I'm not saying these characters are bad by any means. I think we need to see the rest of what they have, but right now I'm thinking I have a preference the other way. So another thing we can look at is if we move away from just purely Galactic Empire tags, Luminara has got a lot of potential synergy, and really the question is, should this squad be being used instead of Luminara, or should you just build something based around her? Because she has Flow of the Force, which is whenever an enemy unit is wounded, an ally character can dash. So that's a very powerful ability. there's no tag condition on it. It just has to be an ally. So you're going to potentially be getting a lot more dashes off. So it could be that, you know, you kind of put in Luminara, fifth brother, to go with Gideon and his little squad, and then I don't know, put in Django or something as the secondary. So it's, I have a feeling that's potentially more powerful, but you also lose some of the synergies, and it looks a bit less fun. So I think I'm not going to be building my squad as Luminara. At least I'm going to try out the new cards first, basically. See how it goes. But yeah, that's it. So a bit of a quicker video this time, I hope. A bit more focused on a particular aspect of a squad rather than just building something from scratch. I hope you've enjoyed. As always, you know, like, subscribe, comment, let me know what you think, argue with me. I like being told I'm wrong because, you know, I probably am wrong. So, thanks for watching. See ya.